Welcome back to the $2 Film Club. Today is, you can probably notice if you're watching on YouTube, something a little different. We decided to break out our ugly mugs to see how shooting with a, or recording with a webcam works out for us. So yeah, if you'd like to see what we look like, you can see
I'm
it on
sorry.
YouTube now. Don't be too harsh on Ryan. I know he looks and sounds like a frat boy, but I promise you he's not.
It's it's the mustache, bro. I
No, the
literally just
mustache
shaved
makes you
my
look like a
beard.
porn actor.
No, I call it the daddy stash, bro.
Aptly from like a 70s porno, specifically. But to segue from that, we are talking about 1977's Close Encounters of the Third Kind from the fabled director Steven Spielberg, who is somehow still making movies because this is it this weekend? I'm trying to remember what
No, I think it's the
the
25th.
25th. Is
Yeah,
this
I think
another
it's
one
like
where
a
we're
few.
doing kind of out of order? No,
Yeah.
it is this week. It is this week, isn't it?
Is it this weekend?
I think it is.
Disclosure Day comes out? I thought it was in a few weeks. Well, I also
Um,
thought Toy Story came out next year, and apparently it comes out in
yeah.
a week or two. So
Okay.
I don't know what to tell
So
you.
as of the recording, it's next week on the 12th, but by the time the video comes out, it'll be that Friday. So yeah, Disclosure Day is coming out. New Steven Spielberg film starring Emily Blunt and the dude from the Knives Out movie, Josh O'Connor. So yeah, I don't know. It looks interesting. It looks more interesting than some of his more recent stuff. Like I know Ready Player One wasn't that great. I'm trying to think of what
I had fun with it. I had
he's.
fun with it. I thought it was a solid film. I think it
I think a
did.
lot more of his recent films have been kind of hit or miss. Like I don't remember a lot of people saying that many great things about West Side Story. I didn't watch it. I've never seen
I
any of
did
them.
not like West Side Story.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
The Fablemans, like,
I haven't seen that
I
one yet either.
don't know if it won any Oscars, but I know it got nominated for a
He
few
might have won
that
a couple of Oscars. Let me see.
I thought it was really good, and I thought way too many people gave it too much shit.
Accolades at the Academy Award. Oh no, it didn't win any. It got nominated
That's
for a
what I
lot
thought.
though.
I'm like, it got nominated for like 6 or 7. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, was this is this the one that I'm thinking it was? Okay. Oh no, it is the one. Sorry, this is the year that Everything Everywhere All at Once like swept the Oscars. So
Yeah, it had no
yeah,
chance.
pretty
It
much,
had no
pretty
chance.
much. Um, anyways, so yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I have never seen this movie before. You and me were talking about this right before we jumped on, but there are three versions of this movie for some reason. There's the 1977 theatrical release, which I don't think I've ever tried to break this down on the podcast before, but maybe it deserves mentioning because I've talked to people who aren't familiar with like film jargon, I guess we'll say, who don't understand what I mean when I say theatrical version, and essentially it just means the version of the movie that was originally released in theaters.
Just
So
think about Justice League and then Zack Snyder's Justice
yeah,
League.
I mean it probably sounds dumb in retrospect now because now we live
It
in an
doesn't
era
happen.
where like director's cuts will be screened theatrically, like in a theater, but it's we still use that term. Just whatever the original incarnation of the movie was, that was originally released as its like wide theatrical window or whatever. I don't know if that makes sense, but anyways, so that's what I mean by theatrical version. Then there was the 1980 special edition that I believe came out on VHS and Laserdisc, if I'm remembering correctly. There's another thing that most people probably don't know what it means anymore. But then later, where is it? I just had it here. Sorry. In 1998, we had the collector's edition or the director's cut, which is the version that Ryan and I watched. I watched it on YouTube. That was the only version that came up for me. So I was just like, well, the thing with the director's cuts most of the time is that they usually tend to mean that it's the director's preferred version of the movie, meaning that, it didn't have like studio interference or that's probably like an extreme version of it, but ultimately stuff was cut out. The director goes back, puts stuff back in, or maybe even takes stuff out, honestly. We've seen that happen a couple of times where a director has gone in and actually removed aspects of a movie that they were like, I don't agree with this having been put into the theatrical version.
So
Um,
something I found interesting when like renting this movie is I rented it through Apple TV, not YouTube. I
mhm.
don't. Maybe you could tell me about this since you did it through YouTube, but Apple TV didn't give me any other version outside of the director's cut for this movie.
Yeah, I didn't see a different version for me either. And I
I
not that
find
I
that
tried to
interesting.
look very hard either. I just saw director's cut and I was like, I'm sure this will be fine.
Well, there's like a thing on like Apple TV where like right below whatever version of the film you want to watch,
Mm.
they have like the other ones.
Oh,
Like I'm pretty sure for Blade Runner, they don't have all of them, but they have like three of them
probably like the
of the
theatrical
different
directors and
editions.
Final Cut.
Exactly. So I don't know if like Spielberg has like this thing where this is the intended version that he wants people to watch when
That's what
they
I've
go
heard.
back to it. Okay, that's like what my thought was. I'd seen this movie like a few years ago, um, and I didn't know about these different versions, so I kind of just clicked on the director's version, hoping for the best. And I'm pretty sure this is what I watched the first time.
Mm.
So hearing that there's like the theatrical cut and then the VHS cut is kind of interesting. I mean, like what you were saying before we started, like there's not too much of a difference between it, but I don't know. This is where I think the different cuts always kind of interest me. Because in the director's cut, what was it? It was the Cotopaxi ship scenes that they added in, right?
Yeah.
In the VHS, but then what did Spielberg add in or take out that he found to be more pivotal?
So here, let me just read to you what it says on Wikipedia. So, on the Final Cut privilege, Spielberg was dissatisfied with the film. Columbia Pictures was experiencing financial problems and depending on this film to save their company. He explained, quote unquote, I wanted to have another 6 months to finish off this film and release it in summer 1978. They told me they needed this film out immediately. Anyway, Close Encounters was a huge financial success, and I told them I wanted to make my own director's cut. They agreed on the condition that I show the inside of the mothership so they could have something to hang a reissue marketing campaign on. I never should have shown the inside of the mothership. That was the big thing from the special edition was that everyone hated the mothership interior stuff, and I'm gonna go ahead and say you probably can't find the special edition. And 1998 is like right around the time that DVDs kind of first started coming out. So I doubt there's a lot of like DVD reissues of that movie. And even if there are, one, they're probably extremely hard to track down, or they probably don't even work anymore because again, start of DVD. Um, Anyways, in 1979, Columbia gave Spielberg 1.5 million to produce what became the special edition. Spielberg added 7 minutes of new and previously discarded footage, but also deleted or shortened various existing scenes by 10 minutes, so that its 132 minute runtime is 3 minutes shorter than the original release. The special edition features several new character development scenes, the discovery of the SS Cotopaxi in the Gobi Desert, and a view of the inside of the mothership. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the special edition, was released on August 3rd, 1980. We get further 15 point. Okay, yeah, we don't really care about that.
I'll say this: if I can't imagine seeing the inside of the mothership, just because I think the design of the ships are so cool and do enough to give you as the viewer or the audience enough of an idea of like what it is.
Mm,
Like I didn't notice this the first time when we watched it, but I really like the design choice that on top of the mothership they put like a little city on it. I don't know if you realize that
I
at all.
didn't actually.
Dude, go back to it or something. But the top of the mothership, when I think it's when it first comes in, and they're doing like the camera's like coming straight down. You just see like this little midtown on top of it, and I didn't notice that the first time, but to me, I think that gives you enough of an idea of what this spaceship or like these ET alien esque creatures are like, what they're like. You know, especially with the scene before that. I mean, I don't mean to jump all the way to the end already, but when they all come out, all the people that they've abducted over the years.
Oh,
Um, I just I'm not a huge fan of the ending, but I like all of that stuff in the ending,
no,
and I
yeah.
think it really works for me. And I just can't imagine going into the ship when they send everyone in to like be their space embarkers, you know?
Sorry, I'm trying to quickly read through all this to figure out. Okay, sorry. On May 12th, 1998, Spielberg recut Close Encounters again for the director's cut, released as simply the collector's edition on VHS in both pan and scan and letterbox variants. Sorry, more film jargon. This version is a re edit of the original 1977 release with some elements of the 1980 special edition, but omits the mothership interior scenes as Spielberg said they should have remained a mystery. The director's cut is the longest release of the film at 137 minutes, 2 minutes longer than the theatrical version and 5 minutes longer than the special edition. A widescreen laserdisc release of the collector's edition on July 14th, 1998 includes a new 100. Okay, well, that's not really important. Okay, well, yeah. So the main difference is the Cotopaxi and the mothership stuff. I saw some other stuff about like how one of them does and doesn't include like certain scenes with the family. But yeah, the main stuff is that other stuff. But anyways, we should probably talk about the actual contents of the movie. I think I've been talking for quite a while. Do you wanna take it from here?
No, yeah, I mean, I'll just go back to like my first experience with the movie because I
Mm.
think the way you reacted was kind of the way I first reacted, which this isn't the type of film I was expecting it to be after hearing so much buzz about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure this came out like the year before E.T., which is like what really blew him up in terms of
I
being
don't
a
think that's
director, or
correct.
2 years. It came out before E.T., I'm almost certain.
Yeah, so the Close Encounters was released in 1977 and E.T. was released in 1982.
Okay. And I was kind of taken aback because I wasn't expecting so much of Steven Spielberg's personal life and like his own issues with the modern nuclear family dynamic of all these middle class workers just trying to like go in on this whole government scheme and take it down. Not take it down, but
I
try to
wish it was
expose
about
them, I
that.
guess. I yeah, I think it would have made the film way more interesting. Just because I don't know. I feel like with this movie, it presents itself as one thing, but is kind of something totally different. And I don't know if you kind of feel that way. Like
I
it
mean,
presents
yes
itself
and
as an
no.
alien like invasion film, not invasion but abduction film.
Yeah, the abduction is the stuff that I I didn't know a lot about this movie going in. Like obviously I knew it was about aliens and that's pretty obvious from even the title. But I've seen the clip from when um Roy is his name, Roy. Roy he first encounters the UFO in his truck, and that's a good scene. But that was kind of most of my exposure. I did know going in though about like the whole family stuff, like the family dynamic stuff, and how Spielberg has some subconscious issue with like the way his father was or whatever. So I think I was expecting more of those two things, and then I quickly realized that I wasn't going to get it, and so it became it wasn't an uninteresting watch or like a viewing experience, but it definitely wasn't what I was expecting. And I think that was the thing. I had too many expectations going in. Like I was expecting it to be like you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like whimsical, Steven Spielberg movie. And I think that the two easiest comparisons here are E.T., which to be fair I've never seen, but I've seen clips.
What?
E.T. and Jaws, a movie I have seen. And I didn't really get any of that. And so like you expect it to be like this like a magical, adorable family movie or like the suspense mystery movie that Jaws was. and this movie is kind of trying to do all of it at once, and it doesn't. I didn't think it worked very well, but that was just me. So
Yeah, no, going back to like what I was saying before, I think this movie is trying to do two totally and not like tonally different films.
yeah,
And for me, I don't know if it's because of the age we live in now, but it just feels very weird like with Roy's the main character. Because
you mean
you
his characterization?
just not even the characterization, just the whole character himself.
Mm,
I felt this way the first time when I saw it and I feel this way now. I just don't get the point of having us follow a lead that is as dislikable as Roy. Because I'm not saying you have to make us feel sympathetic towards him or give him a good reason to why he's doing all these things like abandoning his family. And I'm not even talking about when he goes up into the ship. Dude, the wife goes straight to the sisters and you never hear about them ever again. They're these oblivious figures. He just kind of randomly kisses this woman
Jillian.
Jillian that he meets and almost runs over her son. And for me, a lot of it just doesn't work in that sense because I just despise Roy so much. And when he eventually gets what he wants at the end, which is like knowing what they want, or I don't know if he really gets that at the end, but he gets some semblance of it. You know what I mean by going
Yeah.
into the ship and getting to experience what it's like in there. I just find it weird to be able to give him a satisfying ending because the whole time I really don't want him to have a satisfying ending. And that's where for me I kind of have like my own kind of issues with the film, but overall I think I do enjoy the movie as this extraterrestrial. The government's trying to keep this a secret, but the aliens are trying to communicate with certain people. Like I like all that stuff, and I think that fits under the same narrative of what you were kind of hoping the Steven Spielbergism of it
Yeah.
actually falls under.
Yeah, see, I understand what you're saying, and I kind of felt a similar notion. For me, it just uh, first off, the family dynamic stuff is easily the least interesting thing about this movie. And I wasn't expecting that because normally like the character relationships are kind of like the meat and bones of like Steven Spielberg movies. And it was very jarring to me when I started watching it and I realized that I don't like any of the characters, to be honest. Like, yes, Roy is unlikable, but he's also like he's equally as unlikable as like his wife and kids are. So you don't get the satisfaction on either end. And it got to the point where like yes, it's weird that Roy keeps getting rewarded for all of like the weird shit he does, and with abandoning his family and whatnot. But at the same time, I kind of just stopped caring because I also didn't care about what his wife was going through. The movie doesn't justify anyone's actions, which is just very strange to me because it leaves me feeling like I don't understand what their motivations are. And it doesn't help that I would say this is one of the few Steven Spielberg movies that I've seen where it relies heavily on like exposition, like where, the wife will tell Roy, sorry, I keep saying the wife. Her name's Ronnie. I just remembered. Um but Ronnie will tell Roy that like she's embarrassed. And I think there's a part where she says none of their friends like talk to them anymore, like call them. And I remember that was the moment where I kind of sat there and I was like, did you guys have friends before? Because it kind of seemed like they were really like self isolated because we never see them really interact with anyone like outside of the house unless it's like someone reacting to Roy doing something weird. And it's stuff like that where I kind of just had to sit back and be like, I don't think this movie's like does a good job at like showing us all of these problems that the characters are dealing with. And part of that is because, you've got the Jillian stuff, which kind of pops in and out here and there. And then Roy's storyline is fighting for screen time with the government stuff. And they're both parallel stories, but we keep cutting back and forth and like skipping over what I thought was important time for us to be like sitting with the characters and understanding who they were. Um,
So I guess I'll kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, not to like go into like, yeah, I agree 100% because I agree to a certain extent to what you're saying. This is where I think knowing like the kind of history of Steven Spielberg and his upbringing helps a little bit because when it comes to like the family dynamics, bro, you should watch The Fablemans. It tells way more of his story than I think he leads people on to believe. So how much do you actually like know about his like upbringing with like his parents and getting divorced and stuff like that?
Not too much, but I mean, I can put two and two
So,
together.
but so one of the it's not prevalent in this movie, but the idea of cheating and being dissociative from your family is in the sense that in The Fablemans, I was shocked that they actually did this as like a one-for-one recreation. But when Spielberg was like 15, 16, he accidentally recorded his mother cheating on his father on like a Super 8 film camera. Because I think he was trying to do like pre-production for something or test out his camera.
Oh,
And they were in the woods, and then he just recorded it, and that's what led to them being divorced.
oh shit.
But if I remember correctly, they like the family wasn't toxic in the sense that this film portrays it as, but more so in the sense that the father was kind of distanced from everybody, and that's sort of the reason why his mom cheated on him. She didn't feel like she was getting like the husband that she wanted. And so a lot of those family dynamics I think are prevalent in the whole family dynamic in Close Encounters, which I'm not saying it's a one-for-one recreation, but I do
It's
like
subtle.
that it's subtle enough for you to get a good idea of what he's trying to say. He's just really expanding the notion of the father being so gripped in his own reality and trying to figure things out himself, which is the part that I think I sympathize for, is because the one aspect, even though I said how I don't like that Roy is given like the ending that he substantially wants in terms of everyone else in the film. I mean, Jillian gets her son back at the end, but that's not really much of an arc throughout the movie. Like,
She's not in it very much.
that's what I'm saying. Like, Roy is like trying to figure out what all these liminal messages are for him. But I do find it interesting how Spielberg doesn't necessarily portray him as bad, but more as a man who's so caught up in his own wonder and trying to figure things out that, you know what, maybe he needed a reason to distance from a family. That this is me not saying this is what Steven Spielberg felt like towards his father, but maybe that he was given his father a reason for not being with his mother that led to that cheating. You know what I mean? And not kind of being the man that the family needed at the time. And in this movie, they portray it as him going crazy because of all the messages, but I feel like deep down, like, Steven Spielberg is trying to give him more of a reason for being a better father than he might have actually been. I don't know if that makes sense,
No, yeah,
because I'm still
yeah.
trying to like put all the pieces together in my head, because I just find it really interesting that Roy is never seen as a bad guy, but all of his actions are what we would consider to be, oh, you're an asshole.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. It is very easy to notice that just subconscious level of I don't know if I'd say any of it it was strictly intentional on Spielberg's part. And part of the reason I say that is because people have brought it up before, and he's kind of been like, "Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that." So I feel like to some extent it wasn't always his intention to portray it that way, but it really is hard not to notice it.
See, I don't believe that, though, because a lot of his early film history is derived from a lot of his upbringing.
I mean, no,
Like
it can be
Saving
derived.
Private Ryan.
It could be very. yeah, I don't know how else to
Dude,
say it,
like
but
Saving Private Ryan was influenced by his father's time in the military.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like E.T., I know you haven't watched it, but that is the film that deals with a lot of the his parents dealing with the fallout of divorce.
oh, interesting.
So like I agree in the sense that I don't think it's as upfront in your face as some of the other ones, but I definitely think he subconsciously did it. I just refuse to believe that it's just a coincidental thing, you know?
I mean, I don't think all of it is. Um,
No, that's like saying I don't think it be Roy being as much of a jerk in this movie is the side of his father that he didn't appreciate, but
yeah,
I think more of Roy ignoring his family and getting with another woman and then finally just like leaving to go do his own thing is more of the actual idea of who his father was.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's the part of the movie that I think we should have spent more time on. Like the the government stuff is not, the least interesting. It's just
Not the
there's.
most.
I
Definitely
mean,
not
I
the
don't know.
most
I already said
interesting.
that. I already said that the whatchamacallit, the family stuff wasn't the most interesting. I just think that more focus should have been on their dynamic and Roy actually going crazy and like actively ignoring his children and his wife, because the only time you really see that is when he's first introduced, and that to me kind of sets up that the movie is going to be about teaching him that lesson, but then the movie keeps rewarding him for his obsession and his just continuing disinterest in his family. But then the other thing too is that once he does start obsessing over the alien stuff, the movie takes a 180 and kind of treats it like he's not in the wrong. Part of it's because we know that he's right, like that it is real, and Ronnie just thinks he's fucking crazy for some reason. Even though there's like so many other people who
Who
have
witnessed
seen
it
it,
as well.
and
Like he can literally just be like talk to one of them too.
I know,
Like
like, and I get it's an odd thing when your husband probably already is very, out of it. Um, but I don't know. And then like his kids start, because my understanding was that he at least kind of had somewhat of a decent relationship with his kids. I don't know. Just every time I thought that like this is what the movie was going to be, it quickly shifted gears and kind of stopped being about that. And I wanted to see more of like the fallout of his obsession with dealing with his family. And because the movie keeps kind of like skipping over stuff, because we're also cutting back to, Jillian losing her kid and the government people trying to decode the message and whatnot. I just think that a lot of that stuff didn't really need to be in there, because I think if you take it out, not much really changes in the story, because all we need to know is that the government kind of knows what's going on. They plan out like the gas leak or whatever, and then we can just cut out all the extra stuff and have um Roy and Jillian arriving at the Devil's Tower, and because all of that would still be the same, like including all of their subplot, the government subplot stuff, really doesn't add or change anything to the story without it. So,
well, I guess I'll go a little bit against you on that last part about like the whole government stuff, just because that's the part of the ending that I really do like when they all like come out and they're confirming their names when they went missing. And for me, I think that really just falls under like this is the hard thing about talking about a film made in 1977 at this point is we live in a world where we have the fucking president of the United States going like, I'm dropping the UFO files, the fucking aliens are here. You know what I mean? And we have so much more vast knowledge of what is beyond Earth outside of just landing on the moon. Like, we've already confirmed that Mars has water. You know what I mean? There's actual living microbiology on other planets that, looking back at this, it's hard to be in that same mindset, I think, at least. Especially without all the social media, like, when Jillian's reading the news and the headlines, like, the clouds took my son or something like that. Something just absolutely ridiculous. I try to put myself more in that mindset when like watching something like this because I think a lot of this film does ask the audience to be in the same shoes of wow, we believe this, but we need to prove it. But we live in a world where it's so proven already that once you get to the ending, this is where I don't know if I like it as much. Maybe I wish they were a little bit more definitive in what the actual plan for the aliens were. Because to me, I read it as them just studying humans over the course of time. And they don't really care about using them outside of gaining their knowledge. Um, just and that's as far as like my theory goes because the film doesn't do much for you there. Like after they do the little beep boop beep pop communication stuff and they shoot out and like bring back the entire army with them of little other spacecrafts and the mothership, I was waiting for like me personally them to maybe coexist together, and then it just turns into we're sending a bunch of these people who had the messages stuck in their head off. Like for me, maybe if they had explained that everyone that was on the Cotopaxi was like dealing with the same things that all these people that experienced the close encounter in the beginning of the film had experienced, like in the same sense, and that's like what the connection was. And they kept trying throughout the entire movie, making it out to believe that these people are special, which they are, but the film never goes further than that, than saying they're special and the aliens wanted them to get this information to lead them here.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, for me, I have, like, I like it, but then I wish it went a little bit further in its explanation or not explaining it all, but maybe giving us a little bit more information to give us a better idea of how we could process what all of this is going on. Because it's, for a lot of the film, it's so much of a, oh, is this real? Is this not? But as the audience, we know it's real.
Yeah.
But the whole time, I'm just like, guys, please, 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 just give me a little bit more tidbits outside of these people went missing and why is this ship in the Navy uses in the middle of the fucking desert?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where a lot of my previous statement comes from of the movie kind of just feeling overall unfocused because we're constantly cutting back and forth between things, and then by the time something important happens, it kind of feels like it comes out of nowhere. And the abduction stuff to me just doesn't make any sense because I think the movie wants us to believe that the aliens don't mean any harm and whatnot, but then when it reveals that all of their abductees are still alive and whatnot and are being released, it kind of becomes unintentionally like sinister to me. And I think it doesn't help that the movie doesn't explain anything. And I'm not saying that I want them to like over explain everything. I needed some sort of answer as to why they were abducting people because to me that's just inherently like wrong. You know what I mean? And I understand the whole thing about like communication and whatnot, but I think just the idea of them abducting people throughout time and like essentially displacing them feels really wrong and like awkward to me based on like the themes that the movie is like going for. But I don't know. I wanted this movie to be more about one thing. Either it was gonna be about the alien shit, or it was gonna be about like the family shit, or the exposing the government shit. But it's doing it all at once, and it never really feels like it finds its footing when it's trying to execute all of those ideas.
I don't mind it as much. I think where the real issue of connecting all the stories comes from for me is the pacing is kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
You spend like 30 minutes with Roy and his family, but then you go to a 5-10 minute scene with Jillian and Roy, and then you go to this government, but then you go back to Roy and the family, and then you don't touch on the government for like 35 minutes because then you have the abduction scene, and then you spend like another 15 minutes on with the military, and then you're following Roy again, and then that's where they kind of intersect once they start going to the big
Not
mountain.
really though.
Yeah, what do you
Because like
mean? What?
my other problem with the ending of the movie is like I like that we're finally like seeing all the alien shit, but at the same time Roy doesn't do anything. Like him and Jillian just watch for the most part, and I kind of was expecting him to play more of an integral role in them communicating with the aliens, or I don't know, something at least. But then it's just, the aliens do their thing with the government guys, and then Roy is just there, and they decide like, oh, he can come with us. I'm just like, okay,
Well,
like,
this is you bring up like a good point to like the fact that I don't need them to give us a full explanation, but I
yeah,
wish they gave us a little bit more because to me it seems very obvious there's certain people that are more connected than others, and I only say that because of Jillian's son and Roy kind of being the two main characters in this movie that actually pursue the ship and the aliens. No one else does. Just because during the abduction scene, the little boy is essentially like trying to let them in, like, hey guys, how's it going? I
yeah, he
want you
wants
to
to play
come
with them.
in. And even at the end, I like the scene where he comes out and when they leave again, he like it's so weird that the boy's crying and saying goodbye to an alien ship, which I like because going to your complaint before about the weirdness of displacing all these people is that part where the little boy's crying and saying goodbye at least gives me enough of a reading that they didn't do anything too harmful to them, or at least you could have the perceived notion that nothing crazy happened to them after seeing everyone came out at the same age as when they were taken.
Yeah.
One of the scientists says like, oh, they don't look like they aged in 25 years. So I think the film does enough in like eliminating, oh, this is really weird and creepy. They're doing some really fucked up things, but like going back to like your reasoning for not liking it as much, I think it would have been better if Roy was the one leading everyone onto the ship. For me, that would have made it at least a little bit more tangible because he's the last one in the line. They're like,
Well, they don't
thank you
take
for
anyone
your
else other than
service.
him.
No, they. What do you mean? They do all of them. They
No,
all
didn't
dress
they
up.
just single him out,
No,
don't they?
no. I'm
I'm pretty
pretty
sure.
sure they were all taken, bro.
No, I don't think that's true.
Dude, they were all dressed in special stuff, and they're all congratulating them.
No, I know they're all dressed in the same outfit, but like the aliens specifically pick him out of the line and take him with them. Hold on, I'm pulling up the movie right now. Let's see. Where is this shit? I will say though, like the aliens, the ending of the movie is too long. um,
Dude, I paused it when they first got to the mountain and overlooking the entire military facility. I'm like, holy fuck! There's 40 minutes
I
left.
know, right? Like the movie it holds so long on like
The wonder and
yeah,
mystery of them
exactly.
coming and actually contacting, even though we'd already seen that
I
to a certain extent.
I know that I made fun of the movie for not having any of that stuff, but that doesn't mean I needed the last 45 minutes of it to be crammed with all of that stuff. So that's just, that was my thing. Hold on. I think I found it. So yeah, they're all lined up. The alien, the little children in costumes are,
The little
um,
kids in costumes, bro.
yeah, they
Uh,
pull him out of the line. That's what they're doing right now. And they all surround him and like shake his hand and touch him and whatnot. And everyone's looking at it in awe. And they lead him to the ship. Meanwhile, Jillian's taking pictures for some reason. I don't know why. Um,
she needs the photo evidence at this
I
point.
guess. And then the French dude is like gives him the head nod, and God, all of this is way too long. Just get on the ship. Get
So,
on the
but
fucking
like,
ship, dude.
but like, to the thing is, like, I still think they take all of them, even though Roy is the first one. They pick him out because
And I don't
since
know.
you're looking at it,
It never shows anyone else get on the ship. We only ever see him do it. Like, I'm telling you, I'm skimming through this right now. Nobody else gets
I
on that ship.
I'm not disagreeing that they don't show them getting in, but I refuse to believe that the military is going to make them all dress up the same just for them to only pick out one of them. Because I'm almost certain those people are the ones that like get contact in the
I
beginning.
don't think they
The
are.
one
I don't. Those aren't people who get
Are they
like.
not? Because that's
No,
what I thought it was when I was first watching
no.
it.
They're the only ones. Him and Jillian are like and the kid obviously are the only ones there that like have had a close encounter. Like the other
What do you mean
guys,
they had all the ship full of people with the old ones? Why couldn't they just bring them back and do all that? You know?
you want them to re-abduct the people they already abducted?
No, no, no. Remember when Jillian and that one guy that falls down like the mountain or something, and Roy, they all escape like the military helicopter because they were lied to about the air being dirty or something.
Yeah.
All those people in there were the ones that were in the first encounter, right?
No.
Are
They're
you
just
sure? Because bro,
they're
they
just
have
a
a whole
bunch of people
conversation.
from all over the country that had at some point in time a close encounter
Okay,
and
then I
figured
misheard that.
out that the Devil's Tower where the Devil's Tower was and whatnot. Hold on, I'm trying to because they show
But
the people
that still
that
goes to the
they
same point that those are the people that were the ones that got led there, or the ones that found their place, or
yeah
found their way to the mountain. So to me, I read that all as like they're special in a way that the others that were part of other
and
encounters.
I think that's why Roy is the only one that they take on the ship
But
because to me
they
it
dress
doesn't
them all the same, bro. I'm not convinced. Roy's the only one they take,
if
even though
they
that's the
don't
only
show
one we
it, I'm
see.
counting it as it doesn't happen. That's what I'm gonna say. And like
All right.
they show all of the people in like the weird track suits. Like they cut to them in like a conference room and like they're doing like a mass or something. Um I don't know. They all look like military or like
You're
astronaut
about to make me
type.
pull this
So
shit up on my
that's what
TV
leads me
right
to
now.
believe that they're not the same as Roy. And you can clearly tell in like the way that they carry themselves. And so like it seems like they're like a research team that they're volunteering to go on this expedition into the mothership. But literally in the movie, he is the only one that they take aboard. He's the only one that they show taking aboard. So that's where it leads me to believe that he's the only one. Anyways, um, it's just to me the movie's kind of all over the place. I'm not saying it's bad. Like it's got enough of like the Steven Spielberg style to make it like watchable, and it wasn't an uninteresting movie. Like I said before, there's enough like weird shit that goes on in the movie that's kind of enough for me to like to keep my interest. Like I wanted to know more, but then you get to a certain point in the movie where you realize that it doesn't have any interest in explaining anything to you. Which I know that sounds like I want it to like hold my hand and like walk me through every little detail. But I at least need like you were talking about like you how you were theorizing. I have no like theory stuff to take from this movie because it is just so vague and bare minimum that I can't even imagine trying to create my own idea about what's going on. So I feel like if the movie had just given us a little more hints about something, I could like, just imagine for myself what I thought was going on. But I don't think the movie does enough of that for me. So,
That's fair. I think the movie gives just enough to try and make something out of it, but kind of going back off of your point, I don't think they give enough. So like I feel like I'm kind of in that middle ground where there are some ideas and all that between the aliens and the family dynamics that I could probably question and ponder on.
yeah.
But I do agree with like what you're saying. There's still not enough to really think about it or think too deeply about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think I this movie gave me enough to ponder on. Like, I like movies that kind of leave things a little ambiguous for you to kind of just let your imagination run wild. And I didn't get that from this. Like, I don't. I have a lot of questions that I know don't have an answer. Like I just didn't understand any of what was going on for the most part, and I needed a little something more to make this a truly wondrous and mm, yeah, just to make it the watch worthwhile, I would say. And I don't know how quickly I'd be to return to this movie either. Like I think there are better Steven Spielberg movies, and I kind of just after watching this, I just really wanted to watch a movie that I knew that I liked from him.
Well, I skipped all the way to the end, and none of the people in the orange jumpsuits are there when the ship leaves.
Yeah, but I don't think that's enough for me to believe that they all went up there. Because to me, them coming down and like singling him out also implies that they specifically wanted him, and the
That I don't
others
disagree with.
are just they're just like they could give fuck all about. Um, I feel like that's just an editing thing where they just for brevity, which is the only time I'm gonna say that about this movie, they cut that out of like, oh, we don't need to show what happened to these people because nobody cares, and that's rightfully so. I don't really give a shit. I just thought it was interesting. Um, that's all I have to say about that. I don't know.
No,
Is
yeah,
there something else
I
that?
I was just gonna say like it not about like anything that happens in the movie, just more so like very interesting for Steven Spielberg's first big Hollywood film, especially if you're one of those people that never saw it when they were younger, like when it came out. At this point, that seems like hard to find. Um, it's just weird going back to this, knowing ET, seeing Saving Private Ryan, all of his other stuff. I'll say this: I was already not too excited for Disclosure Day, but this movie, like, kind of to me exemplifies almost why I'm not that interested because it feels like a different version of this movie.
Mm,
I don't know if that came off like making sense, but
I mean, I think that movie looks more interesting. At least it I mean, again, marketing. That could just be that the stuff that I've seen from the trailer makes the movie seem like it's more about the mystery of like what is going on, and I feel like I can get behind a good Spielberg mystery, even if I haven't seen like Close Encounters or E.T. At the point that I saw that trailer, it did feel a little derivative.
yeah, I agree. Um, I don't really have too many other things to say at this point, just because
The music is good.
it's. I mean, yeah. Like I said, I think the design for everything is really
Oh
cool. I
yeah,
think
the
it's shot
special effects
really
in this movie are
well.
really good.
They still hold up to this day too,
Yeah.
which I think is hard to do for a lot of people nowadays.
Hey, you and me have talked
Um,
about it recently.
yeah, that's
Movies that don't
true.
hold up well, in terms of visually.
Um, but like I do appreciate for what this film still is, though. Even though I can sit here and acknowledge that
It's
I think
flawed.
it has a lot of flaws, but at the same time, I think the performances are really good. It's Steven Spielberg doing a great job at directing. Um, DP looks great, like it all. So that's what I'm saying. Like I think a lot of the issues just come from the editing and the story itself, because I think everything else around it actually is what keeps you as the audience interested for most of the film.
Mm,
But
yeah. I think this is one of the few movies that he wrote himself too, so maybe that explains why.
yeah,
But anyways, yeah.
but
I mean, it's not the worst time that I've had watching a movie.
underwhelming.
It wasn't yeah, it wasn't very boring. I just kind of found myself a little confused at times, and I definitely think this is the kind of movie that if I had seen growing up, maybe I'd have more affection towards it. And it definitely feels like a movie that like it feels like a dad movie, if that makes sense. Like it feels like a movie that
No, I
your
agree.
dad would be like, "Hey, we should watch this. This is a really good movie."
I remember
And
watching it when I was younger. It
and to
was
be fair, a lot of
fantastic.
Spielberg movies are like that because obviously Spielberg is one of the rare directors who a lot of his films, you know, came out and they were really influential toward the younger audience of that time, which just happened to be like today our parents. Um, and a lot of his some of the movies of his that I have seen are movies that I watched with my dad. So I know it's got some charm to it in that regard. Um, it's it's definitely an interesting movie in retrospect. Given the kinds of movies like you were talking earlier, the kinds of movies that we're familiar with.
Yeah. Well, you want to get into like some final wrap ups, and then we'll talk about what we're watching next week.
Yes,
Sweet.
you go first.
I know. I'm pulling it up. I get, like I said, I think people might think I'm a little bit more negative on this movie than I might give the score because I give it a 3 out of 5.
Mm.
Like I said, I think there's enough theorizing outside of the alien stuff about Spielberg's past history with his family and with his mommy and daddy issues because it's just prevalent throughout all of his films. I think that is enough for me to like come back in the future and watch it. And I still appreciate what the film does culturally because I do think this film was a big pushing off point, not for just Steven Spielberg, but for a lot of the sci-fi genre and alien type films as we know it. So I see this film as if this didn't happen, a lot of other things wouldn't happen. If they did, they might not
Yeah.
have been as good as this, or not as good as this, but just like as good as they are. So I'm gonna keep it simple as that. Like I still respect the fuck out of Spielberg because I think he did try to make something
Different.
different and visually and from a story standpoint interesting at a time where I don't think a lot of people were willing to make strides like this, especially with like such a weird nuclear family dynamic with like the two kids, the husband wife living in suburbia. So for me, I think that's interesting enough too, outside of like the small alien tidbits that you get in between, that I'd always recommend this movie to someone. So yeah, I give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I gave this movie a 3 stars out of 5. It's all right. I think it's definitely a solid effort, which is something. I don't know. Like I said, I was kind of expecting more from this movie that I didn't really get, and yeah, I
Wanted
mean,
more aliens.
I don't know how quickly I'd be willing to recommend this to someone because I live with a lot of people and I interact with a lot of people who probably wouldn't like this movie for those exact reasons that I've been complaining about, who don't like to watch a lot of older movies because they're not used to how slow they can be. And sometimes that's a little over exaggerated, but I think this is one of those movies where it's kind of not. Like you really feel the runtime of this movie. And
I
it's
had to
not
watch
even
it
really that
in
long
two different
either. It's
sets.
only like 2 hours. And but there's just so much of this movie that I felt could have been trimmed. But anyways, yeah, not to go on that tangent again. But yeah,
Bro, I had to watch 2 episodes of Widow's Bay. It's a new Apple TV show in between this because I'm like, all right, bro, like this is getting a little too much right now.
I watched it all the way through. Like the only time I took a break was to like grab something to eat. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have as much trouble sitting for like longer movies, but I do know people who do struggle, and so that's why I'm a little iffy on recommending it, especially if you're not really going to get any answers like questions you have. Because that's another thing. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but oftentimes when I'm watching movies with people, they'll ask me a lot of questions, and it's hard for me to answer them because I either don't know the answer or I it's just spoiling the movie at that point. So it's just, this is one of those movies where if someone asked me a question, I would literally not know what the answer was. So,
No,
anyways,
I agree. But without that said, Leo, what are we watching next week?
all right. I hope you guys are ready. So, a couple weeks ago, we talked about or some of the scary
The first
movie, yeah,
three.
the first three, because Scary Movie 6 is coming out this week actually. So we are going to go see that, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk to you about about that movie. Give you our latest and greatest thoughts on you know modern cinema's newest offerings.
I'm excited, bro. I cannot tell you how excited I've been for
No,
this
I know
fucking
you're excited,
movie.
bro.
And you know I'm buying that bong
Yeah,
popcorn
yeah,
bucket if they have it.
yeah.
I don't care what fucking size it is. That bitch is going in my house. You know,
No, yeah, I
Wayne's
believe
brothers
it.
are back. You can't go bad. Can't be bad.
But yeah, so that's what we're talking about next week. Stay tuned for that, and we will see you again next time.
Peace.